Okay, everyone, welcome to Beyond IoT and to this third and final session in the Workshop 2 series. So my name is Denise and I'm just moderating from the Nimbus Centre at the moment. So I just want to give a couple of just housekeeping at the start before I hand over to Kelvin and his panel of CEOs here who will, I'm sure, have very fascinating stories as they go through. So this is the Microsoft Live interview and dialogue with some amazing entrepreneurs, including the CEOs from Journey Protector, Pacsana and ApisProtect. And it'll be, Kelvin will be asking the questions. So there will be a bit of time for audience questions and answers at the end. And I just ask that you put your questions in the chat. If anything comes up as you're listening to people, just pop it in the chat and I will ask the questions and put them to our panel before the end of the session. So we'll have about 10-15 minutes at the end for that. One other thing is that just that the workshop's being recorded and hopefully we'll be able to go up on our YouTube at some point in the future. So I know that we've had a lot of inquiries from people who, because there's so much on at the moment, who are clashing with other workshops. So we want to make this available for as many participants who want. But with that's it for me. So I will hand you over to Kelvin and the panel. And yeah, that's it.
Fantastic, Denise. Thank you so much. And listen, welcome everyone to Beyond IoT 2021. Hopefully everyone has been having a great day so far, getting to enjoy some of the workshops, some of the longer sessions, getting in around a couple of the stages and a couple of the expo booths. Listen, hopefully we'd all love to be down in Cork there today, but hopefully 2022 we can reconvene. But listen, Denise, you hit the nail on the head. This really is about a showcase of some of the fantastic entrepreneurs that are on the Microsoft for Stars program. And I guess before I introduce them, I'll introduce myself. My name is Kelvin Keane. I'm the Microsoft for Stars program manager for Ireland, Netherlands, and Belgium. And I work as part of the Microsoft for Stars Western Europe team. We are a global program that ultimately tries to connect our startups and our scale-ups into the overall Microsoft ecosystem, whether that's the Microsoft teams themselves within the subsidiaries, Microsoft partners. You know, I don't know if anyone was on the session I just did with Arrow, but some fantastic partners that we have across a range of areas, whether it's technical, engineering, commercial, and even funding. We look at connecting startups into those partners and really trying to fill the gaps, I guess, where we don't have expertise ourselves. And then ultimately looking at scaling startups into our own customers, either through our marketplace, either through direct sales, or even our co-selling. We really look at bringing startups on a journey throughout the program to ultimately connect them into, you know, either our enterprise or our SMC customers. We're really lucky in the sense that, you know, currently in Western Europe, we're managing a little over 500 startups, all of which are B2B or somewhat B2B2C, all building a scalable cloud backend, and they're all at a stage where they're really beginning to, we're really beginning to scale and grow, and we kind of want those startups scaling in conjunction with ourselves, in conjunction with our technology, and then ultimately, hopefully, becoming Microsoft partners a little bit further down the track. And I guess, as you know, like all of Microsoft, you know, we're very much industry agnostic. We're working with a number of different startups across a number of different areas. And I guess it's one of the fantastic things about working for Microsoft. One of the fantastic things about working for Microsoft for Startups is that, you know, every single day I'm working with startups, you know, across a number of different industries, number of different business models, and you know, with a number of really cool different stories as well. And I guess the IoT industry is probably chief among those in offering some of the fantastic background stories and fantastic value propositions that we have on our program. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our panel today. I have Anne Lawler of Journey Protector here. Anne, how's it going?
Grand, thanks. I'm trying to keep my dog quiet. She's barking in the background.
Good stuff. The dog is interested to be on IoT as well.
Yeah. So I apologize if you can all hear him. I've tried everything I can think of to stop him barking.
No worries. So fantastic to have you on, Anne. And Fiona Edwards-Murphy from ApisProtect. Fiona, how's everything with you?
Hi, Kelvin. Yeah, I'm good here today now. So yeah, I'm just up the hill from the Nimbus Centre. Actually, I'm probably the closest person to actually being physically at Beyond IoT.
Good stuff. We're all very envious of you. I think, yeah, looking out over CIT there. Hopefully we'll get there in 2022. And Fergal Dignan of Pacsana. Fergal, how's everything with you?
Kevin, how's it going? It's going great here. Yeah, you won't hear a dog barking, I hope, but you might hear a bit of homeschooling happening downstairs when it turns into hollering and shrieking. So we'll try and keep it under control, though.
We're not on are we on a double mats at any this afternoon, Fergal?
No, it's less the double mat. Double mats tends to be a quieter session. It's more the kind of Seesaw and Google Class that it turns into a kind of a bit of a shrieking session the odd time. But fingers crossed, it'll manage itself for a little while.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So listen, for everyone in the audience, I guess what we're going to be doing on this session today is just discovering a little bit more about the businesses that Anne, Fiona, and Fergal have built. Talk a little bit about how they've been able to articulate their message. Talk about kind of what differentiates them, how they're working and building partnerships, and then maybe a little bit of vanity. Talk about some of their relationships with Microsoft and their big plans for 2021. So I guess, Anne, it would be fantastic to start with you. It'd be great to get some little bit of background to Journey Protector, how you guys came up with the solution, and how you've been working so far.
We were approached by a driver some years ago who had been beaten up by migrants in the rear of his truck when he tried to remove them. He'd asked for help, and he described Calais as being like a war zone. There were so many people trying to get to the UK and so few police trying to control it. They had all the security systems inside the truck, but none of them really protected the driver. They all protected the load. So he asked, was there something we could do? Now, we've been running an automotive business for a number of years, so we'll always use a product that's already in existence because it's cheaper, quicker, and easier. And when we looked at it, we realized there really was nothing suitable. So what we did was we developed one. We've worked with Wiser in Letterkenny IT. Senan and Stephen have been amazing. And Enterprise Ireland supported us. In fact, Enterprise Ireland introduced us to Microsoft, and that was like a game changer for us. Once we got involved with you guys, it was brilliant. But we then met a girl who'd been trafficked, and we knew then that we had to pivot. We had to do something. We had to try and stop this. So that's what we did. We set our beachhead market to be refrigerated units because nothing works in them adequately. And I kind of defy anybody to meet someone who's been treated that badly and not try to do something to help. So we realized that everything that's out there at the moment is not fit for purpose for what we needed. So we set out developing our own. Now we didn't have the staff to do it. So Wiser Lab, as I said before, have been brilliant. And subsequently, Microsoft mentorship program. We started working with the mentor in Microsoft. In fact, she's absolutely amazing. And she has stayed on. And she's now one of our advisors. And we'd be lost without her, basically. I don't know whether I should mention her name or not, because I don't think she's one for going out front and center, but she's just amazing. And then we went to Microsoft for Startups. So we've continued to develop and iterate the product. We have a working prototype, but we're now part of the Arrow partnership, and they're working with us to make a product fit for purpose, which is a grander purpose than we had in mind initially. But we took part in GCHQ Collab in the UK. So that gave us access to people who fully understood the criminal mind of the people who were doing this. So, and they helped us to refine our offering, etc. So now, please God, by the end of the year, we'll have a product that will be fit for going into ports, and it will reduce the loading and disembarking of a vessel by 5 hours, and are helping us with that. So basically it's a unit that goes in the back of the truck. It has its own serial code, which is like a VIN number in a car. So that area and the data is specific to that number. It can't be altered. It can't be changed. There's a log of all events. The sensors take readings. It's machine learning in the cloud because we don't have the data sets to be anything other than machine learning at the moment. And it will detect when there are a series of anomalies and an alert is sent. So that's basically what we do, and hopefully we will stop people from, we'll make it financially unviable for them to traffic people in that way, because they'll do cigarettes today and people tomorrow. And that's us.
Fantastic. And I guess from IoT within the truck to IoT within the hive, Fiona, maybe a little bit of background to ApisProtect.
Great, thanks, Kelvin. So what we do at ApisProtect is we help to safeguard about 1/3 of the food that we eat every day. So crops like almonds, avocados, kiwis, blueberries, all of the very nutritious and delicious fruit and vegetables and nuts that we eat. Those are insect pollinated crops. And we only have one insect that we can actually manage at an agricultural scale, and that is honeybees. So the only pollinator that we can really pump into fields, into almond orchards as fast as is necessary to produce all of those fruits and nuts. So that's what we work with at ApisProtect, and what we found, or what we probably all heard, everybody on this call has seen headlines, information, stuff like that over the last 20 years about how pollinators are in decline. And that includes honeybees. So now up to half of honeybees in many countries are dying every year. So beekeepers are really struggling. So even though our diet has become more dependent on honeybees, beekeeping has become a much more difficult industry to work in for these beekeepers. So what we do at ApisProtect is we have a sensor technology, so an IoT solution. We put sensors inside in beehives, and we extract data, and what we do is we help beekeepers identify where in their operation. So the kind of beekeepers that we work with could have, thousands or tens of thousands of hives, and they're able to identify which beehives actually need attention right now. So essentially what we do is we take them from opening every single beehive, trying to work out what's going on, to knowing exactly which beehives they need to open to work on. And we were founded in 2017. So it's been an exciting couple of years for us. And we're very delighted that in December, we launched our commercial product. So our product for large scale beekeepers in the USA. And this January, we've launched our product for Irish beekeepers as well. So now beekeepers in Ireland and the USA can buy our technology.
Fantastic. And I guess probably to give the audience an idea of scale, how many hives, I guess, would some of these larger beekeepers in the US have that you're working with?
Yeah, so we work with beekeepers who have multiple tens of thousands of hives. Even just taking one of the crops that these beekeepers work on, almonds. So in California, in kind of a 5-county area, 80% of the almonds that the entire world consumes are produced. Every single year, there's 1.3 million acres of almond farms. Into those farms for the month of February, so it's actually just kicking off right now, they need 2 beehives in every acre of almonds. So you've got 1.33 million acres of almonds, so you need 2.6 million beehives. And there's actually only 2 million beehives in the commercial beekeeping industry in the USA. So you can see that's a huge challenge. So they already don't have enough beehives to pollinate all of those almonds. And then when they're losing, 40, 50% of those colonies every year, they're struggling to just be able to provide as much beehives as there's a demand for.
Fantastic, and I guess this speaks to the wide range of industry and types of business that we're working with on the Microsoft for Startups program. Fergal, maybe tell us a little bit about Pacsana. You're just on mute there, Fergal.
Sorry, every time I get caught out with that. It's shocking. Sorry. Nice to meet you, everybody. Pacsana provide value-added services for health and home care providers. We offer peace of mind solutions to enable patients and the elderly to better be cared for in their own homes, either by family carers or by home care providers like Connected Health, another Microsoft for Startup partner, or Home Instead you might be more familiar with. We've an IoT solution which is based around gateways and connected endpoint devices. This is one of our own design devices here. This is a very light, comfortable bracelet that our participants wear, and it allows us to understand their movement levels in the home, activity levels over time, and there's a brief button that we can use to raise an alert if they need to do that. We started out in 2018, and I set up the business. I have a background in commercial sales rather than but always in technology, but I wouldn't consider myself technical. But I suppose I've been lucky to learn from working with great teams, and we've managed to put together a really, really strong team here. Part of that is obviously our partner network. Microsoft for Startups is a really important part of that. Yeah, for forever I've worked in technology, and it's great when you can get behind the problem you're solving, and supporting vulnerable people in their own homes is a really important part of what Pacsana do, and it makes the job a very easy thing to get excited about on a regular basis.
Very interesting, and I guess Fergal, yourself and Anne and Fiona, you've kind of gone through that sort of value proposition that you guys are bringing into the marketplace, and I guess articulating a clear message around what your value proposition is, how you're adding value into your customers is so important. I guess Fergal, I'll go back to you there. What process have you gone through to define that core message, and I guess what are the differentiating factors that you're bringing from that message, I guess, as opposed to your competitors?
So I would have started out with a background in sales. And would have sold some, I managed teams that sold big ticket items. So I'd be very comfortable with that kind of, that the core. If you're going to ask somebody for large sums of money or any money at all, what value you're going to deliver to them. But one of the things that was quite transformational for me was going through the process of problem statement analysis, value proposition analysis, and customer problem definitions, which I would have done that in a number of programs on the way, kind of a bit of New Frontiers, but a really strong focus in the NDRC's program, which really got under the hood of that. And things like the mom questions and what's in it for me as a customer, really, and not just making any assumptions about that, really challenging yourself and being hyper critical, and kind of almost starting from the proposition that your idea is broken and it doesn't work, and it isn't, really deconstructing it so you could put it back together again. I found that to be pretty powerful, and it's allowed us to be really, really focused and zero in on exactly where our value proposition resonates, exactly what the messaging is, and exactly the even a cost model that supports it. So that's how, on a personal level, that's the way I've approached that.
Fantastic. And I guess maybe Fiona, like a bit of a tweak to that question, in the sense that, I guess the industry that you're in, or the type of business is quite a niche business. And it's probably something that, I guess technology is sweeping across agriculture at all stages. Was it quite an easy sell for some of your customers to bring technology into their farms, or what was that process like?
Yeah, I mean, like certainly when we talk to beekeepers, it's kind of oh, I've been waiting for this kind of technology. They've seen like that ag tech really over the last, 10, 15 years has been emerging, all over the place. But beekeeping, it's a little bit newer than it is to say other parts. And certainly they've been like, okay, I've been waiting, I really need sensors. And I think another thing that was really important for us entering the market is to really understand what's the competition and what's available. And like you said, how are we going to be different? And I think really understanding that there wasn't a really scalable technology available. There was lots of cool sensor technologies that made sense if you had, 3 or 4 beehives, but when you're trying to scale up to thousands, our technology had to be really, deployed in a couple of seconds per beehive. There's going to be minimal management, things like that. So we put a lot of time and effort into the development of the technology around that. And then as well to really understand what the beekeepers were looking for and what farmers in general are looking for. I mean, like, there are a group of people that are very sensitive about their data. They really understand that, the kind of data that they generate and just how valuable that can be to different, different stakeholders. And one of the important things that we do at ApisProtect is that we work with the beekeepers and the beekeepers alone. And the beekeepers really do seem to resonate with that. We don't work with the almond growers. We don't work with anybody else who's in the beekeeping value chain. And knowing that really you, Mr. Beekeeper, are gaining all of the value from the data that ApisProtect creates and not anyone else in the food chain. They really, really love that message.
Yeah, very interesting. Matching the customer's problem to what you're actually able to produce. And I guess, Anne, you've like you're almost coming at a point in time, from a trade and a movement of goods, especially in now to the UK. It's potentially the perfect time for something like this. Why do you think something like this hasn't come along before? And I guess you being able to articulate that message to your potential customers, how have you been able to do that as well?
Well, we designed our product after talking to hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of drivers. And we also spoke to customs, border control. We spoke to all the stakeholders. We also hired a guy who robbed trucks and had him show us how he did it so that we didn't have that in our solution. It took him 40 seconds to get into the truck and no alarms went off. So we ensured that we didn't have that weakness in ours. We knew what they needed, and truck drivers are the only people that I know who are guilty until proven innocent. The minute they cross the border with someone in the back of their truck, they're guilty. It's not just the trucking companies who are fined, it's the drivers as well. And it's very difficult to find technology that the drivers and the vehicle owners both desperately want on board. So we designed it for people, and it just so happens that it gives product adequate, or actually more protection than they currently receive. So it's simple as that. We designed the whole thing from scratch. We didn't take off the shelf and just, throw a bit of firmware at it. We went through the law books. We started from the very, very beginning and basically redesigned it to what was needed, not what was wanted. So,
and I guess there's, I guess with all of your solutions, not only is there, a huge commercial opportunity and a commercial aspect to your solutions, there's a huge social impact as well with what you guys are doing. I guess, Anne, I'll go to you on that one. From working with you over the last number of months, I think the social element has always been at the forefront of your mind, and that's really driven your messaging and your value proposition. Is that something that you were always very conscious of?
Yes, we designed it so that another driver like Alex wouldn't be beaten up, and then we pivoted so that we could try and make it as difficult and expensive as possible for traffickers to move people, because a lot of times people think they're being smuggled, but when they get to their destination, they are in fact being trafficked, and they're essentially human slavery exists today. It is there, and it's worse than it was at any other stage. because people don't want to see it. People want cheap goods. And there's a lot of money in it. There's more money in it than transporting arms. But if it's difficult and expensive and troublesome, hopefully they won't do it. You know, it's simple as that. We're in the process of applying for B Corp certification as well, because I really think if you're going to go to all the hassle and trouble and heartache and sleepless nights of setting up your own business, you should make a difference. And it's simple as that.
Absolutely. And like, I mean, listen, I know kind of all three of you are almost at sort of different stages of your development, you know, and you're probably more so at a prototyping stage. Fiona, you've just spoken about how you've done the big launch in December, and Fergal the same. I guess in all of those aspects, though, you know, building partnerships and, you know, looking at how you want to win customers is so pivotal. And I guess, Fergal, I'll go to you first, because, you know, I know that you've built a fantastic partnership with the likes of Arrow, with the likes of Connected Health. How do you view partnerships when you're scaling your business? And I guess, you know, in the likes of Connected Health and Arrow, it would be great to speak to how you built those partnerships for everyone in the audience.
So the Connected Health, it has been an absolutely terrific partnership, and it's great for us because they're passionate about having a digital care business that can be as evolved, and they're on a journey. They see the world in 3 years' time, where very similar way to the way Pacsana sees the world in 3 years' time, where we are using really efficient digital technologies to sympathetically support a really highly evolved care system. And like if you take the care business alone, Connected Health have done a terrific job. But if you then add in the enhancements that they have with Pacsana and various other social prescribing tools they use, they're you know, head and shoulders above any other care business that I know in between Ireland and the UK in terms of their adoption of technology and successfully using it to kind of enhance their service, but also to make an impact on the end users. So no, that was kind of when we met with Connected Health first, we were introduced by TSA in the UK. And it was very clear that we had a shared vision, and that the Pacsana service really resonated with them, and that was great. The introduction to Arrow was another very helpful part of our journey, because Pacsana solution is a scale solution. It has to go to big numbers, and at its heart we use machine learning and intelligent systems to help channel activities. But what we need is really excellent distribution on the back of that. So in the same way that we use Microsoft Azure cloud and IoT services to help minimize the level of human intervention required at a computing layer, so that the humans can focus on the front of house, the care offering that they're given. Arrow give us access to a global distribution network that is going to be come into its own in the near future. So yeah, they similar to Connected Health, they took a long view with us. They see where our ambitions are going to bring us, and they've started by really supporting us in a number of different ways around system design and component level modifications. So two really great partnerships, and there were partnerships that were built on a vision, a shared vision, I suppose, which is really, really helpful. And certainly that would be the approach I would take to partnerships is you have to put as much into them as you want to get out. And I have to say that both Connected Health and Arrow and indeed yourself, Kelvin, you've committed a lot to the relationship with Pacsana, and it's been very impactful.
Yeah, and I guess that phrase there that you mentioned, shared vision. You know, I think whether you're a small startup or you're a much larger company like a Microsoft, you know, if you're entering into partnerships, there does need to be an element of reciprocity. There needs to be a shared value. There needs to be an element that, you know, it's not necessarily just based on maybe a financial element, you know, because that, I guess we've found it ourselves with our partnerships with the likes of Arrow, that, you know, if there's that shared vision, if there's that reciprocity, you know, you know, it's a vastly healthier relationship. And I guess, Fiona, to your point, sorry, Fiona, to you, around building partnerships, and then I guess even winning customers. You know, again, I kind of go back to the fact that it's a relatively niche area, but, you know, how have you, from the time that you've launched, I guess, really sort of scaled that customer acquisition, you know?
Yeah, I think, I mean, like, the building really good partnerships, and especially with, you know, like that big names like Microsoft, the support of Microsoft, and the European Space Agency, ESA, BIC, and our investors. You know, we have quite a good cohort of investors, and I think those are really important in two ways. One, to help you, you know, build the product and build the company, but at the same time, when you are winning those customers, you know, having those names associated with you, especially when you're coming into a little, you know, a niche industry, a very tight-knit community of beekeepers or any other kind of customers, having that backing of people who they know what they're doing, really does help you win customers and bring them on board. And especially, you know, for us, we see every relationship with a customer as kind of a journey, that every single beekeeper, and especially these large scale beekeepers, they're very different and individual customers, and they know that we've got the skill set and the backing behind us to be able to provide exactly what they need for their operation.
And you mentioned investors there, and I know kind of funding is something that, you know, startups and scale ups, I guess it's about as much as the amount and the timing of the funding as the type of funding. You know, is it a VC, is it a loan, is it a grant? What does that look like? And I guess are you you know, is that investor a partner that you're quite that you're enjoying working with? I guess to you, Fiona, how did you go about, you know, accessing that funding? And I guess what was the type of funding that you were looking for? Was it just I guess financial, or was it a mix between, I guess, financial and almost that advisory?
Yeah, it was definitely a mixture. I mean, like, obviously, you know, any hardware related startup needs a good bit of capital to just kind of get moving in the first place. That kind of, you know, static friction is a lot stronger, I guess, for anything physical in the real world compared to, say, software. But definitely that mixture of, you know, just having the money isn't enough to get where you need to go. You need to be able to access, you know, the networks of your investors, the experience of your investors, especially coming, you know, our team at ApisProtect, we started out with quite a technical team. You know, we knew all about the beekeepers, we knew all about the engineering, we knew all about, you know, the machine learning that we wanted to do. But, you know, how do you do marketing? How do you build out a sales pipeline? Things like that. You know, first of all, we had the investors with a lot of experience in that area and connections into the agricultural world, especially over in the US, which was our first market. And then they helped us to really build a team around ourselves. So we got, you know, we were able to know that we needed to ramp up the marketing first and get really good at the international marketing, and then follow up with a good sales team to start pulling in those, you know, customers into our pipeline and closing the pipeline out. So that was great. So definitely it's a mixture of capital and really who you're getting the capital from and how can they really help you on another layer. You know, just money isn't enough to get you where you need to go.
Absolutely. And I guess probably, you know, kind of the next question that I have really for the group is, so 2020 has been exceptionally challenging, or was an exceptionally challenging year for everyone. And I guess COVID aside, because I guess everyone is always talking about COVID. You know, over the last number of years, as you've built your businesses, what kind of one element have you found most challenging that I guess you can give the audience some insights into today, and then I guess how you might have overcome some of those challenges? I'll go to you, Anne, first.
We actually found getting a team around us to be the most difficult thing, because when you don't have money to pay people, it's very easy just to take whoever will come on board, and the same with the funding. So we've been very sort of picky about who we took. And thank God we have had an awful lot of people who have just helped us because they believe that it's the right thing to do, and it, you know, it's worth doing. We got a great CFO on board, and he's still not getting any wages. Like, he's the same as the rest of us. He's working because he knows, you know, it's important. But we've actually raised some investment from a wealth management company, and we're just making our first key hires. A friend of mine, Trung, has been our advisor for software. He's a senior software developer. So we're actually getting our own people around us now, but we have to make sure that they have the same mindset as the rest of us, that there'll be no 0-hour contracts in this company. There'll be no somebody afraid to phone up if their child is sick. It's not going to be that type of company. So we want to make sure that the management team has the same mindset. And we found that difficult because yourselves and loads of other large corporates are hiring. So we had an awful lot of competition. So, and let's face it, if you have a choice, you're not going to go to a startup.
Absolutely. And yeah, I guess you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I think you know, my boss Andrew McAdam, who obviously you guys would have met before, but for the rest of the audience, you know, he speaks about a survey that a colleague of ours actually did with over 1,000 VCs a number of years ago, basically surveying what VCs and you know, funding operations look as the key elements of success when they're making their investments. And obviously, you know, capital is one. You know, as Fiona said, you need elements of capital to get you off the ground. But the biggest thing for them was team, you know. And you know, it's interesting and for you to hear you say, you know, getting that team, but then also as you're scaling and you're scaling the team out, that people are, you know, people aren't forgetting the mission. They aren't forgetting the actual pillars of why, you know, you've built the business in the first place, and what has made you successful in the past and why it'll make you successful in the future. And I guess that's a kind of an interesting trade-off, you know, between scaling out the team and also keeping the mission and the priorities central to what you're doing. I guess, you know, Fergal, it'd be great to hear some of the challenges that you've experienced, and I guess, you know, hopefully that you've overcome.
I tell you, being honest with you, one of the biggest challenges I have at the moment is Wi-Fi, but it's recovering. Thank you very much. But no, the funding journey is a funny one, because you start with a great plan and you think everything's going to go a certain way, and then when you get out into when you start doing the shoe leather and doing your presentations and talking to people and so on, you learn an awful lot as you go about how evolved you are and you know, what more you need before people will engage you. But what I would say is that everything the remote working and the absence of face-to-face has made things longer, and getting it may have even to, you know, the idea, it's brilliant that we can be so efficient on remote work, and we have virtual teams in Serbia and Slovenia, and we're dealing with customers and opportunities in the States. But the big piece of a fundraising adventure is to meet the key decision makers and to get in front of them. And if you want to kind of get passion and and drive and a team articulated, it's really hard to do that without having, you know, a face-to-face meeting. However, you know, we were lucky enough this year that the investors that we had engaged with earlier on in the cycle knew us well by January. So the fact that everything went to Zoom after that was not a problem. But that's already proving to be a drag on 2021's funding activities, which is, you know, I want to see people face to face. They want to get in front of them. But listen, it just adds another overhead. It just makes it 20-30% harder. So you just got to work that bit harder to get through it. But yeah, I think for us on balance, it was just a hard kind of fundraising year, but we were lucky and we were funded. So that was great. And we'll keep going on that basis, but it doesn't make it any easier, the old remote working and so on.
Yeah, and I guess we're kind of all missing that sort of element of building a relationship beyond a video call, and
yeah.
we one of our members, our colleague from M12, Microsoft's VC arm, a guy called Matthew Goldstein, he recently did a workshop for us, and he spoke about, obviously he's saved a lot of time on travel, he's saved a lot of time on being able to look at companies, say, out of the UK where he's based. But he said something that he always did when he was going to meet a company was he'd arrive just 30 minutes early, sit in the reception, or he might sit in the open air floor and just watch how people are working together. And he said he got a real great sense of how the company works just by almost being anonymous in the background before the official kind of handshake of that the actual then investment conversation. And he said he has made investments and he has not made investments based on just some of the gut feelings that he got just from seeing how people work together, seeing how the team gels. And, he said it was a great indicator of how teams worked. And obviously at the moment, you are missing some element of that. So I guess to your point, Fergal, getting across the team, getting across the passion that you have, it can be quite difficult, as we're doing now over Zoom. And I guess so, and Fiona, just to come to you on that one. So I guess we've had team, we've had funding. How about yourself? Where the challenges lie?
It kind of a post-COVID and pre-COVID challenge was really understanding how to communicate to different people about the company. And I think that's first of all, that was a challenge for me myself. As a technical co-founder, to be Fiona, stop telling people about sensors. They don't want to hear about sensors. You're talking to an investor. They don't care about sensors. Talk about the financial planner. You're talking to a beekeeper. They also don't care about sensors. You need to talk to them about what it means for their business. So really learning how, you've got a message for everybody and understanding how to identify who is this and which of the messages is it that they're supposed to be hearing. And then again, kind of coming back to the team, it's understanding or helping everybody else on the team to understand that as well. So, the last thing you want to do is have somebody other than you talking sensors to a beekeeper, so making sure that everybody's able to knows what the messages are, and staying on message is a really important thing. And that's, again, the non-face-to-face really, it makes that a little bit more difficult again. And then another challenge that we face that's kind of, again, ramped up in the COVID world has been, data collection. So, I mean, like all three of us here, we've got, machine learning based businesses. I don't know about you guys, but certainly there is no existing data set for the kind of machine learning that we do. There's nothing out there in the whole world. There's a couple of B databases, but they have all the wrong data for us anyway and what we're trying to do. So since day one back in 2017, a huge amount of our time and effort has gone into, right, this is the data that we need. This is how we're going to collect it. Getting beekeepers on board to be our data friend beekeepers. And even just, trying to get the quality of the data and the consistency of the data up to the standard that we need. We eventually got to the point where we have our handful of beekeepers that we trust to collect the kind of annotation that we need to match our sensor data. And we were flying those beekeepers around. And then obviously, first of all, that's very challenging because I don't want to be sending people, here go, stand in a field for 4 weeks to collect data on the other side of the world. But then when they're not even allowed to do that, so we had certainly last March and April was a very interesting time for us. My co-founder, Paul Drake, spent a good portion of March and I think even into April, traveling across the US, inspecting beehives furiously, kind of going from state to state as they were being shut down. And I'd ring him every morning and go, have you been trapped? Are you trapped yet? And he was like, no. And he got out before the full-on travel ban kicked in. So that was exciting.
Kind of Benny Hill of beehives.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you know, we're kind of coming towards the end of the talk today. And it's been fantastic to, I guess, pick all your brains around some of the insights, I guess, that you know the audience will hopefully have really enjoyed around how you've built your IoT solutions with a fantastic software element as well, I guess, and you know, trying to scale them internationally. You know, 2021 hopefully is going to be a big year of sort of opportunity for everyone, you know, startup, scale up, Microsoft, wherever it may be. You know, it'd be great to get some of your big plans for 2021, or what does 2021 hold? We'll go to Anne, you first.
We're hoping to launch by the end of this year. We'll be running pilots in the UK and Ireland as soon as we're ready, and as soon as we're allowed to actually go anywhere to do it. So that's we've got our UK office, and we have just taken workspace in Catalyst in Derry. So that's our plan anyway. We're going to continue our relationship with Microsoft, thank God, with Arrow and with GCHQ in the UK. So that's basically, we're going to expand the team as well. So we've a lot going on. So yeah.
And what areas are you going to be expanding the team in, Anne?
We're hiring a lead software engineer and 4 people to work under him, and we're looking for a hardware engineer as well.
Fantastic. Hopefully Arrow will be able to help you on the hardware side.
Yeah, please God. We have a guy in the UK who's brilliant, but he can only come on under contract, and we really need someone to join the team full time. So if all else fails, like, I'd love to have him full time. I have to say he's brilliant, but sure. if all else fails, that's our backup plan, to have him under contract.
Perfect. And Fergal, how about yourself? What are the big plans for 2021?
So we've made some big hires this year, which have been really successful so far, which have been terrific, and they've more than started delivering already. So we're working on a lot of product enhancements, and these are kind of incremental kind of improvements, and then certifications against those for our customers. That obviously there's some regulatory environments that need to be respected. But March of last year, we started discussions around engagements and pilots in healthcare systems in the US, and obviously they're very badly hit by COVID. But the problem of supporting care, home carers and family carers has only kind of become more prominent. So we're hoping to get back in business in the US and start getting some of our first live installs over there, and engage with a couple of significant care providers. That's the big ambition for 2021. Fingers crossed.
Fantastic. And Fiona, listen, we'll finish with you. 2021. What does it hold for ApisProtect?
All right, so for ApisProtect 2021, it's about customers. So we're like that, rolling out to our new customers over in the US. So scaling up the volume of units that we have, and the volume of deployments that we have there. That's where Microsoft's support over the last year has been really, really great. So just knowing that our backend is able to survive scaling from hundreds of units to thousands of units successfully. So that's been fantastic to have, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing. So getting those large operations on board in the US, helping them add more value and make their operations more efficient, and then working here in Ireland with beekeepers to help them become. We want Irish beekeepers to be the most technologically advanced beekeepers in the world. So that's our objective for 2021.
Fantastic! What a great ambition to have. So listen, I think we'll round it off there. And thanks so much, Fiona. Thank you, and Fergal, thanks so much for your time as well today. Listen, just 3 fantastic examples of startups that are working on the Microsoft for Startups program, and 3 fantastic examples of startups that are really building their IoT solutions, both from a commercial aspect, and then, you know, as we've heard, from a social aspect as well, which is as important. So thanks again, all three, and we can open the floor to questions.
Yeah, thanks guys. Just such fascinating work each of you are doing. It's just really amazing to see. So also, loads of the questions I had got answered in the process. Kelvin, you had all the good questions. So, but one that came from Clyde Hearn from the chat, and she says, thank you all for these amazing conversations. Could you share some strategies on how to optimize your time, how to make sure you are prioritizing what is really important for your business instead of what is urgent? Many thanks. So maybe each of you might have something to say on that.
I can go first. First of all, I'd love if anybody has a really good answer to this question, because I think every single founder in the world is like, you know, if I could solve this problem, that would probably be my biggest problem solved. I think how I like to manage things is I set aside a certain amount of time every day for the urgent things, and then set aside time for important things, because it's really important to be able to take that kind of step back and think about big problems. And you tend to get, I certainly have in the past gotten wound up in spending weeks or even months at a time dealing with problems, none of which were really big problems, but like, you know, you need to put this paperwork over here and answer this question and talk to this guy, but none of it's actually stepping back and going, are we going the right direction at a higher level? So certainly putting time into your diary to say, I'm just going to think about things for these 2 hours over here. And I'm not even going to open my email. I'm not going to open my messaging, anything like that. I'm just going to think about things that are important to me. And I find if you put that at the start of the day, because I think the minute you open your emails, there's like 60 questions there, and you're just going to start answering questions and you'll never think again. That's all I have.
I think that's good advice, Fiona. The only thing I'm not sure it adds to it, but yeah, I try to eat the frog trick, in that if you've got something painful to do and you know it's going to be a time sink, get it off the books early in the day, try and put a few hours into it, and then, you know, and limit that time. So step back from it. If you're not making progress, step back, and don't be afraid to change the mood and go and, you know, take a break, come back and come back to a different topic. Because when problems seem intractable, because you're doing a lot of thinking and focusing on them, sometimes it's just a different part of your brain needs to turn on to that problem. So, you know, if you're not making progress, walk away. But I'm afraid I wish I could give you more guidance than that, but it's all I can tell you.
No, I agree with walking away, because the more you try to do something, the more irritated you'll get, and the worse it'll be. I tend to go out for a walk if I get like that and then come back, but I use Gantt charts. I'm a bit of a list maker, and then I prioritize the jobs on it. And if I can assign them to somebody else to do, which now in fairness, it took me about a year to be able to make myself do that, because I kept trying to do everything myself. But now if there's something that somebody else on the team would be better at, I'll hand it to them to do. And that way I try and get through maybe 5 things a day and do them properly. But I will always pick the one that I'm least looking forward to do first, because you'll find a million things to do rather than get to it. Well, I will anyway, if I don't get it over with. So I find Gantt tables brilliant. Thanks.
No, that's great and really insightful. I think a question that came in just even from a colleague within Nimbus was just in relation to everything. A lot of things have gone online now. Like you've all mentioned that you don't have the opportunity to see people face to face or do a lot of things that you would have done. And you've mentioned, like Fiona, you mentioned like the issue of like sending people around the world and all that time. Is there any kind of key tools that when you went online that really just helped, that would help other, say, like even in Nimbus, we deal with a lot of entrepreneurs, and we obviously have our own methods of working now that we've tailored for an online only environment. My day job is a UX designer, and so we took our very in-person workshops and have navigated them to mostly successful online workshops. But has there been any tool like in the past year that you think like, yeah, this definitely helped us as we navigated life online and managing teams and managing, you know, all those bits that come with managing business?
I can go first again. So I don't think there's any specific tool. I mean, like, you know, you've got a lot of, things like Microsoft Teams and then video calls and stuff like that. I think it's more important to just make sure that everybody's actually using it. So I know we have a daily call, a catch up within the team. So before we tried to keep meetings to a minimum. I mean, like when you've got such a small team, it kind of seems like a waste of time to be like, okay, everybody over here for an hour. It's like, no, we're going to talk about it while we're in the room. And just as we're working away, we're going to be talking about our various problems. But setting aside, it's a half an hour to an hour every day where it's like, okay, we're all getting on and we're all just going to talk to each other. We're going to say what we're working on, what our challenges are right now. Is there anything we need from our team? So just being able to keep that interpersonal connection going, I think is important. And just kind of like, when you're in charge of the team, just kind of haranguing everyone into doing it. And then once they kind of get used to it, then they're, it seems to be a bit more productive. A lot of the time I feel like I'm, saying the same things over and over again. I'm like, okay, we've got our team call tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Come on, let's go. I think it's combining the messenger, the constant communication there with the video calls and keeping kind of the face-to-face contact up as much as possible when it is possible. And then lastly, using the kind of like the whiteboard function on video calls, especially when we're doing kind of like strategy meetings and stuff like that. That's something we only started, later in the time, when we're like 6 months into COVID. And I think that that's really helpful because that's the thing that I felt like we had been missing that we couldn't do, when we were solving problems together as a team in person. It was, one of the best things was when we were just kind of like, we're just going to talk about this particular problem. We're going to just keep writing things up on the whiteboard until we kind of get something that we all think is a solution. And trying to recapture that in an online world is very difficult, but the whiteboard seems to help a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
We have online meetings as well, but what we do is, well, I do it because I'm old. I send stuff to people through the post. Like it could be just a little card and a bag of sweets or just something. So that's what we do as well, because we can't meet up in person. We just send each other not expensive things, just little, you can eat your sweets while you come to the meeting. And it's a little way of reminding them, come to the meeting. So that's what we do anyway. And also it's nice to get little things through the post. So, yeah.
That's really sweet.
Well, we're coming up on time, and that's kind of my questions there. And there doesn't seem to be anything else in the chat from the participants. So I just want to really thank you for your time today. And Fiona, Fergal and Kelvin. And this is the last session in this stream of workshops, but there are loads of other workshops going on, and one that is starting at the next time, let me pull it up there, is just, you mentioned Connected Health, and they're part of a workshop as well. So for anyone who's listening and found that all interesting, they're part of the workshop 1 stream, which might be an interesting one for you to go on to. But I do want to thank you all for your time, and just really amazing and really just like, I think, inspiring to see you thriving, I think, in this time. It's really great to just see stuff progressing really well, I think, at the moment too. So yeah, that's it for me. And hope to see you in some more of the workshop sessions that are going around, and the main stage and the research stage are still open. We're plugging that every time too. But yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks many guys.
Thanks very much.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thanks for having us. See you guys. Bye.
Thanks.